Okay, I actually have no idea how I'm framed, but I just wanted to film this and get it outside of me. So I found out sort of early this morning that I have failed the clinical component of my internal medicine rotation, and that I need to repeat it at the beginning of next year, which is really tough. My results were not available last night, so I was unsure about sort of what was going on. Woke up at 3 this morning, struggled to go back to sleep. It's just been tough. And part of the reason I wanted to make this is because I really wanted to see something about this. There's one other video by someone called, I think it's Tarvi or something along those lines. And I watched a bit of it, but it was a bit difficult. And I kind of wanted to watch someone talk about mental illness and med school, and just what those expectations look like and self-esteem. So I was admitted at a psychiatric hospital earlier this year for a very severe depressive episode, and I got a diagnosis, I guess, of major depressive disorder and generalized anxiety disorder and panic attack disorder. Those are all like very fancy terms, and I realized that I'm not like looking down on them, but those are just sort of terms that come. They just feel a bit detached sometimes in modern media, especially depression, like what that word means and like in pop culture and things like that, and what it feel and like what like at least my perception of it and my feelings around it before going through that very severe episode. I mean, they're just words. I it's hard to convey what exactly that felt like. But there was a big question around, because that happened earlier in the year, whether I would come back to university, at least for the year. Should I take the year off? And it's something that we've thought about a lot. And I decided not to do that. I decided to stay in. And I was able to like get through everything, no matter how anxious or how distressed I was. There were times when I would like be trying to go for a walk, and then I would basically end up collapsing in the parking lot, and be unable to get up and unable to go back to my room. My friend would have to come and get me and sit with me and help me calm down. And actually the day, and then sort of, my meds got changed. I got changed from an SSRI to, I don't even know what trazodone is actually. I've looked it up. It seems to be some sort of version of an SSRI. I thought it was the TCA. It doesn't seem to be a TCA. I'm not 100% clear on what it is, but I got changed to that, and that would cause like a severe amount of dizziness, like I couldn't walk properly sometimes. So I did take it, and my psychiatrist at the time, she couldn't meet me earlier to discuss it. She just said stop taking the meds, so I stopped taking the meds. Basically 2 days before my internal medicine paper, and got basically severely anxious, especially during the clinical component, which is like a very anxiety-inducing thing for me. And none of these are like excuses, because that's not what this is about. It's more about recognizing that there's this lyric in this song by Laszlo Bain, from the Scrubs theme song, and it's called "I'm Not Superman." And I woke up in the morning, and that's the thought, like at 3 in the morning, that's the thought I was having, which was like, I'm not Superman. And it's so sad and like so depressing to like realize that, but it's like, I was dealing with something that was so difficult, and there's only so much you can expect of yourself, and that's like, you can't, I did my best. Like the day after I wrote the paper, I had the worst panic attack I've ever had. I collapsed. I couldn't move, and I was screaming and shaking, and I sweated through all of my clothes. And when I got so hungry that I couldn't do anything, and I just like, my friend had to like, I got heard by a couple of people outside my residency. They came and they took me to the security guards, and the security guards literally had to like fucking carry me to my room, at which point my friend was there, and then he just sat with me, and I like gave me a cup of warm beverage. It was a cup of Milo or something, and I just like inhaled. There was a bunch of like biscuits there that I just inhaled, And it was just really hard. Like, this year has just been really hard, and I've made this priority to, like, take care of myself first, because what I went through that put me in that hospital was so unbelievable. Like, it's so hard to explain, you know? And after the panic attack I had after the paper, I was like, there's a very tall building that I know about. So for our medical school, there's a very tall building. The med school itself is a very tall building, and you can get sort of the 10th floor of that building quite easily. I've gone there a bunch of times to look at, like, the view. It's a beautiful view, but recently they put out a thing that you're not really allowed to be on there because people try to kill themselves off there, and I totally get that, because it's you'll die. Like, it's a very tall building. I actually had my hand on the door to go to, because I couldn't do it anymore. Just something, like, snapped inside of me after that. And my mum called, and it was like this one very, like, I don't want to say miraculous, I don't even want to say serendipitous, but my mum called, and I sort of sat down, and I don't know what would have happened if I'd, like, gone up. If I'd, like, gone up the door, I don't know if I would have made it all the way there. I don't know if I'd gone up all the way there, if I would have jumped, or what. I don't know. I don't know what would have happened. Maybe somebody would have even, maybe it would have been, I don't know what would have happened, but I was heading out there because I was done. And my mum called me, and I sort of sat down. That was about 2 weeks ago, and I had some exams, and during one of the other exams that I ended up passing, I, like, had a full panic attack during the exam. And all of this is not to, like, it's not like a pity thing, it's not like an excuse thing, it's not like, oh, my life is so hard, which it is, and it sucks, but whatever, that's not the point that I'm trying to make here. I'm sure that my life is harder than other people's, and I'm sure that my life is a lot easier than other people's, and I'm sure that there are many dimensions within which that difficulty exists, and there's a capacity for perception, and that changes everything. But my point, that it's almost like this is a video that I want to make for myself so I can come back to again and again, which is that you can't expect yourself to be Superman, and it's okay to have fall down. It doesn't mean that you're less intelligent, or that you're weak, or that you're a shitty person. It doesn't make you suddenly unworthy of love. You had a very tough time, you tried your hardest, and that you did the thing that I think is the best thing ever, which is, like, you looked after yourself first. And you dealt with all the other stuff second. You put all of that academic stuff that has been first for your whole life, which is what led you to that point where you broke and snapped. The point where I snapped, I knew that I was upset. I knew that something was wrong. And I kept pushing myself in lockdown to do 6-hour days every single day, which is like 6 hours of sitting at a desk and studying. In which I would time myself, and if I was not focusing, I would put a pause on the timer, and I would wait for that to catch up. And it was very strenuous to do that. That was an insane thing to do to myself at a point where I was so fragile. And I did the opposite, not the opposite, but I took care of myself. When I could study, I studied. And when I wasn't able to, I didn't. And when I was feeling really low, I put a lot of effort into taking care of myself. And the days when I couldn't do anything, I tried my best to not be cruel to myself. And those are the important things that happened. And this thing is just a 5-week course block at the beginning of the year. I've got residence, so it's fine, that's not going away. It's more, how do I see myself? You know, I'm kind of wondering, I'm wanting more people to reach out, and I want more people to comfort me, and I'm going to definitely have to go out and get that and ask that. I have a lot of agency in the situation. But before any of that, I have to realize for myself that I'm not less than anybody else because of this. In fact, it's incredibly profound that I was able to even sit down for that fucking exam, considering what I've gone through. That I'm not repeating the entire, that I'm just repeating this one component of the is an insane thing. And that all of these things of the future that I'm scared of are just shadows of they're figments of imagination based on shadows that I'm seeing that are not real, and that reality is rarely as depressing as my own imagination. And that's what I wanted to say, is that, I keep thinking it's very cliched, but that scene from Batman Begins by Alfred, like, you know, fuck. The head of the League of Legends, I'm forgetting his name, which is ridiculous. It's such a big, like, it's gonna drive me off the mall. I don't want to Google it. I don't know why Bane keeps coming to my mind, because I'm like, it's not Bane, obviously. Ra's al Ghul. When Ra's al Ghul comes back, and he burns down Bruce Wayne's house. And Alfred pulls that log off him, which I think is probably the most unrealistic part of the whole movie. But I guess because Bruce was pushing, but still, those logs are really heavy, man. And he says, "Why do we fall down, Master Bruce?" And Bruce says, "We can get back up again." I have to remember that. This is all part of that journey, I guess. Like, it does. Like, I never didn't watch that scene and go, "Oh, that Batman's a fucking piece of shit." Like, I was like, "Oh wow." When Batman got up and he went for it again, that was incredible. Like, when Batman was going against Joker in Dark Knight Rises, and he had so many failings, and I never looked at Batman and went, you know, like, he was the bad guy, or like he was less than. He was incredibly strong, for even though he fell so many times, he was able to get back up and still try. Like, the beautiful thing about Ethan Hunt and all those Tom Cruise movies is that no matter how many times he fails, how many times everything falls through, it's like some sort of manic state in which he just keeps going for it. And that's what's so the whole Mission Impossible franchise is based on the idea of not like these impossible stunts. It's that, I think for me at least, what's so goddamn impressive is like the refusal to give in. Like, at every point Ethan Hunt's plans go wrong again and again and again, and he just refuses to give in. And that's what's really incredible to me. And that's like, I look at that and I was so moved by it. And I never once at any point went, "Oh, Ethan Hunt is a shitty like agent." It's just that he's in a very tough situation, and oh fuck, he wasn't able to do it. And oh wow, he's not giving up. And that's what I want to recognize, is that I've been through something like insane, and it doesn't reflect badly on me, on my intelligence. I've been getting between 75 and 85 for the majority of my med school career. You know, made a jump in the third year after studying the way my friends studied, to catapult myself from struggling to get 70s to struggling to get 80s, or not even struggling to get 80s as much. Like, my capacity is incredible, and maybe from this it'll grow even more, because like that's the one thing I've realized, is there's so much. While my intelligence, you know, I guess that's capped to whatever you want to talk. I'm not there yet in terms of reaching that potential. There's so much there. I don't have to think less of myself for this. Nobody is going to love me less or look down on me for this. And so in the same way that I haven't looked down on anybody for this. It doesn't reflect on me. It reflects on the circumstances that I was in, the difficulty I had in those circumstances. And that's okay. I'm still worthy of love, both from others and from myself. All right.